Hi guys, Jamie from Boxing Life and welcome back to the channel. Today's video, I just want to give you my reaction to Shakur Stevenson's masterclass versus Oscar Valdez. Last night's performance was really just spectacular from Stevenson, and if I'm being honest, I kind of expected a performance like that. I obviously did my tactical overview video a few weeks ago. I really took a look at both guys. I've already been watching Shakur for a while, and I kind of knew more about what he did in terms of how he approaches fights. And whereas Valdez, I wanted to give him a chance. I wanted to see, if he had something a bit different to maybe cause problems for Stevenson in this fight. And you have to give your hats off to Valdez and the team for taking the fight, because Stevenson is arguably one of the best talents in the sport. And for me, it was a very disappointing display. I thought we'd maybe see something a bit more from him, if I'm being honest. But, you need, at the same time, you need to give credit to Stevenson, because, right from the first round, really, I felt Valdez looked quite nervous. He slipped twice in that first round. And Stevenson was just controlling with the jab, the lead hand, and just pivoting out of the way when Valdez would be coming in. And I think another issue as well, Valdez hasn't faced a southpaw since I think 2015. I think that played a big factor in this fight. He really struggled against that southpaw jab from Stevenson throughout the whole fight. And the tactics clearly from Reynoso and their team was to, instead of trying to box Stevenson, which was always going to be an impossible job, because Stevenson, it's clear on paper, by watching him, he's a superior boxer to Valdez. And they clearly thought the best way to get up close to Stevenson was to kind of use that high guard defense. You often see Canelo do it. You'll lean over the front foot and kind of tempt the opponent in before you quickly counter the punch. The issue was with this tactic was Stevenson probably knew they were going to come in and do some sort of tactic like this. In the opening few rounds, Valdez was actually able to get some good body shots in Shakur, but nothing, consistent enough to really make Stevenson worried about it, in my opinion. When Valdez would be doing those body shots, Shakur would get out the way and counter back straight away, putting back the pressure on Valdez and countering him when he was coming in. And it kind of just looked like he was just trying to set up the right hand Valdez, if I'm being honest, getting his foot on the outside of Stevenson and trying to connect with the right. And it just wasn't working really. He maybe clipped him a couple of times throughout the fight, but he just didn't connect at all. And one of the things I'm quite disappointed about Valdez in this fight was he wasn't using the jab at all. And then yes, I think we've seen guys try to use their jab with Stevenson and it never worked. However, this gave Stevenson such an easy target all night with that high guard defense. And yes, there was a lot of the punches were hitting the gloves, but it made Stevenson appear busier. It gave him more confidence. And then at that point, Stevenson was mixing up the attacks with his combinations, going from body to head to body, round the guard. And you could tell he looked shell-shocked at times. He didn't know what to do. And he wasn't throwing that jab, and I believe he only landed 6 jabs throughout the whole fight on Stevenson. And that kind of tells the whole story. And in my tactical overview, I kind of talked about how Stevenson, how he controls rhythm to get guys to, commit to a shot. And you can still do that without someone throwing out the lead hand. You can do that by, tempting them to think that they can counterpunch. And Stevenson's so subtle with his footwork, he just needs to take a half step back before countering back and pivoting out the way once again. And he did that the majority of the night. On the inside, defensively, Stevenson's very secure in that area. He kind of shells up, uses the shoulder roll. He's comfortable in that situation, and I think it just shows you, Shakur is definitely an elite level fighter, and it's just disappointing for me about Valdez. I think it was just the wrong I think they should have tried to throw the jab a bit more, but it's a lot easier said than done against someone like that. And he did get some good hooks on him now and again to the body. I think it was round 6 he landed the most in a round against Stevenson, out of all the fighters Stevenson's fought. So he did do some good things. It's a hard one for Valdez. I think he just did not look like the fighter we've seen. He just looked like a lost fighter in there, I have to admit. And by the 4th round, Shakur was coming out early in the rounds, smiling down at Valdez, getting in his head clearly. And in the 6th round, there was obviously some old school tactics from Eddie Reynoso, forgetting to put the mouthpiece, not leaving the ring early enough, giving Valdez a bit of time. And if anything, I think that caused a bit of confusion for Valdez. And then obviously he got knocked down on the 6th. It was more of a loss of balance. Shakur definitely did get him, so it was a knockdown, but it was just a bad start to that round halfway through the fight, especially when he needed to get momentum back. And then from that point on up until the rest of the fight, Shakur really just cruised the whole fight. The left hand to the body was tremendous from Shakur. It was really, every time it was hitting Valdez, you could tell he was wincing. Yeah, tremendous performance from Stevenson. I think that was probably one of his best displays so far, against a good opponent as well. Valdez isn't an easy guy to fight. He's got good power. He's always in front of you. And yeah, I think what was one of the stats I saw, it was 53% of Stevenson's power shots landed on Valdez, and yeah, it's very clear if you watch the fight. But yeah, overall, tremendous performance from Stevenson, in my opinion. I think just a masterful boxing display. And Valdez, in my opinion, just wrong tactics from Eddie Reynoso. I think they should have tried to use that jab. He wasn't feinting that often as well. He looked shook up when Stevenson was landing. Clearly, maybe Stevenson has a bit more respectable power than some people are letting on. I think this is a very, good landmark fight for Stevenson to really, propel himself, to stardom in boxing. Tremendous performance overall. And yeah, guys, let me know in the comments below what you thought of the fight. Were you disappointed by Valdez? I thought there would be a bit more of a fight from him. It'll be interesting to see what both guys do next. As always, guys, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.